Well, good morning, everybody. Nice to see everyone. I hope everyone is fully caffeinated and ready to go. My name is Eamon Javers. I'm a senior Washington correspondent at CNBC. We're here to talk to you this morning about workforce development, and no better panel to discuss this with. Let me go from my far right to my left with the introductions. We have Juan Salgado at the end here. He's the Chancellor of City Colleges of Chicago. We have Brendan Bechtel, who's the chairman and CEO of Bechtel. We have Chris Kastner, who is president and CEO of HII. And to my immediate right, we have Dr. Quinton Ross, president of Alabama State University. And you are the Hornets and not Roll Tide.
That's right. That's right.
I was told is a very important distinction in Alabama.
That's right.
So we want to make sure that's cleared up here at the beginning. The other thing I thought, just as we were looking at this lineup, is that we have two executives here who build stuff, and then two executives here who build people. So I think that's a perfect place for us to start this conversation about workforce development. And one of the things that they told me at the outset of our goal here is to just come up with one insight from each of our panelists in terms of what's actually working in workforce development in the real world. We do a lot of theory here, a lot of policy in Washington, D.C., but in the real world, what is actually working? And so, Juan Salgado, I think, why don't we start with you at the end and just get your thoughts as we start on what you're seeing that's new this year. So many changes in society, culture, just everything post-pandemic, everything with the economy now. What are you seeing that's different now and that's working now?
Well, one of the things that's working is companies are looking to community colleges as a talent solution, as a source of people with incredible capacity. Every day we see more and more partnerships. Just yesterday we announced the opening of a new lab tech program in partnership with the University of Chicago, where they are building a $200 million facility in a pathology lab and encouraging other companies. So we are not only a source of talent, but we are becoming a source of economic development, right?
Yeah.
Our economic development agencies have us front and center. That wasn't always the case.
How does the partnership with companies work when you're doing that? Are you reaching out to the companies and saying, hey, we have this pipeline of students coming forward, or are the companies searching you out and saying, what have you got that works with the mix that we need?
Well, what's really working is the companies are speaking about us with each other, right?
Yeah.
So this is working for us at Aon. This is working for us at Accenture. This is working for us at U Chicago. And they are, if you will, disciples with each other for the value that they're getting from us, the value that they're getting from our students. That is the key to success. This is all about the business case, right? And because the business case is there and the value add is there, we are getting businesses saying, you should work with City Colleges of Chicago.
So, Brendan, you're on the opposite side of that conversation, right? You're reaching out to universities, community colleges around the country, trying to understand where your workforce is going to come from. What parts of the conversation are exciting to you this year?
Yeah, I think what I might do is I'll start with the problem statement for where are all the people going to come from to build all the stuff that companies like ours build. And then I'll offer sort of two sets of solutions on that. One, when you're operating in a union environment, and one when you're operating in an open shop or non-union environment. And I hope in there is the fresh new idea that nobody's thought of yet, that others can copy and paste. I think the problem statement is that our industry, the construction industry, is going to have a shortage of hundreds of thousands of workers in the next couple of years. And it's a wonderful problem to have. It's a great environment for workers. And it's in part because of all the industry stimulating policy that's happened with the infrastructure bill, with the CHIPS Act, with the clean energy provisions of the Energy Act. That's great. But just in our own case, just for Bechtel, we're forecasting we're going to need to hire 20,000 more construction workers just for our work on the Gulf Coast over the next 2 years.
Over the next 2 years?
Over the next 2 years.
Wow.
The total supply exceeds demand by a factor of 2x on the Gulf Coast in the coming 2 years. So what are we doing about that? In an open shop or non-union environment, we're doing exactly what Juan just talked about. We're partnering with local and state community and technical colleges in places like Texas. So we have partnerships with 4 different community and technical colleges in Texas where that work is concentrated. We've created our own apprenticeship program. We've graduated about 10 apprenticeship classes. And both from a sort of pipe fitter and welding perspective. The other way that you do this, by the way, is that you figure out how to make the industry more appealing to and attract more women workers into the workforce. For that, we started a commercial driver's license training class. These are 6 to 9 week accelerated classes with a guaranteed job offer at the end if you pass all the assessments. It's been incredibly successful. Last thing I'll say on this. Oh, go ahead.
Just you mentioned that. What kind of criteria do you need, or what kind of qualifications do you need to get into that program?
If it's
a guaranteed job at the end, that's enormously appealing to a lot of people.
So again, this topic is about post-secondary pathways. So we're actually even going further upstream, and we're beginning to recruit students in high school to let them know that this will be available to them coming right out of high school. The last thing I'll just say that we're really proud of, which I think the industry could do more of, is apprenticeship readiness programs with the unions. And this has been a real game changer for us, particularly trying to increase the ranks of our underrepresented groups within our workforce. We've done this now on 3 different of our mega projects, and it has really changed the game in terms of getting underrepresented groups into the construction workforce. So on our Vogel project in Georgia, 40% of our apprentices were women, and 80% were from underrepresented groups. And in our experience, having done this on 3 big projects, it massively helps with retention of those underrepresented groups within the workforce too. And you can come in as a brand new apprentice and make it all the way to journeyman on the life of 1 big mega project. So I might pause there.
Well, and Chris, speaking of mega projects, I mean, you guys build aircraft carriers. That's about as mega as it gets, right? Also deeply involved in electronic warfare, I'm told. Yep. So high-tech stuff, big building projects. Are you seeing the same things?
We actually, Brennan just scared the heck out of me said he's going to hire 20,000 people on the Gulf Coast.
Not from you guys.
From you.
So the competition is pretty amazing. And I could add, relative to apprenticeship programs, we've had one for actually 100 years. And our hallmark program is in Newport News, Virginia. And we call that our leadership development pipeline. You would not believe the look on students and parents' faces when we tell them that they've been accepted into this program. They're going to work for 4 years. They don't have to pay for anything. They're going to have 4 years work experience. They're going to have no debt, and we're not going to tie their hands when they finish and say they have to work for us. The great news is 80% of apprentices that graduate from that Newport News program are with us after 10 years, and they represent 50% of my production leadership. So apprenticeship programs work, as Brendan indicated, and they're really, for a large industrial employer, they really develop the leadership that you need to be successful.
How do you find the receptivity of the students when you go in to reach them? Are you reaching into the high schools also for those apprentices? Or
we are. I would say, interesting. We have really good athletic teams too, which you may not understand from an apprenticeship program. Our women's basketball team just won the conference championship last week, so shout out for them. They do a great job. We don't have any issue hiring into our apprenticeship programs. The acceptance rate is between 5 and 10%. What we really need is fundamental math skills coming out of high school. Yeah. That's the biggest obstacle, and that's our biggest criteria for people coming into trade apprenticeship programs.
Have you noticed a decline in those skills since the pandemic?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I talked to the president of the University of Maryland about a year ago, and he was saying that the first kids coming in after the pandemic, they had a shocking downturn in skill set, and they were having to do real remedial stuff for the freshmen who were coming in post-pandemic. I have a son who's one of those post-pandemic kids going to college now, and I can tell you those kids got hit hard in terms of learning loss.
Yeah, and
Are you seeing that?
We have modified our training programs both in the shipyard, but also the relationship with the community colleges. This is where that relationship is so important, is that you can modify curriculum to ensure that those fundamentals, not only of math, but leadership, are included in that.
Dr. Ross, I guess a lot of that falls to you, right? I mean, if you're the person responsible for educating this generation of students, a lot of that learning loss is now landing on your lap. How do you see this transition from education post-pandemic and now trying to pipeline people into the workforce?
Well, first of all, let me thank the Business Roundtable and Thurgood Marshall College Fund for this collaboration. Representing the HBCUs, I have to say that listening to these gentlemen, all of it is relative. And when we talk about scale, talking about increasing the individuals that are going to go into the workforce, I think we have to lose the semantics, right? Because all of it is about education. And so when you talk about four-year colleges as well as two-year colleges, and I work for a two-year college, I think that there has to be collaboration between all of those sectors in order to fill the needs of the companies. We talk about apprenticeships, and apprenticeships, we call them internships, but I think it's all relative, and we have to make sure that we don't let that interfere with the recruiting of students. Our institutions are meccas of talent, and I think what we would ask is that companies really come to our institutions to see exactly what we have. I mean, we have partnership with two-year institutions. I have a philosophy on my campus where I say you have to go to know. And it's not only for our four-year institutions, but it's also for the industry. When I look at across the landscape of the 230 businesses that are members of the Business Roundtable, we only have 8% of our students who are in some type of internship with it, but we should really have 100%, right? And I think that's for all of our institutions. If you look at the four-year institutions that are represented here, historically black colleges, each one of them probably have a number of partnerships with the businesses, but I think we could dive deeper by bringing those companies to our campuses, as well as having our students come to your company to really touch it and feel it. And so we do have that responsibility of training. They send them to us to coach them up, so to speak, with that learning loss. And so I think that the corporations, businesses can invest in that to help, because our institutions also reach out to K through 12. So really we have a seamless pipeline that we can create. I think in many states, it's, the barriers through somatics, because you say workforce development, you automatically think, two-year institutions, but nothing against my HBCCs and the two-year institutions, but I think all of it is relevant in terms of education. And so we have a collaborative partnership with Trinity Community College in our state, where we make sure that students who want to transition in that space, but also come and work for your companies, have the necessary skills in order to do that. Our academic enterprises, we're constantly retooling our programs to make sure that the students have the skills and preparation needed for your human resource needs. And so I just think working together and really drilling down can scale it up and being intentional about that relationship.
You talk about the importance of being there and being there physically. Maybe I'm just betraying my age here with this question, but it seems to me, no judgment on this generation, but it seems to me that the kids coming out of school or in college now really look at the job application process as something that happens on the internet. There's a web portal, you send your applications in, and you see kids sending hundreds of applications because they can just copy and paste. But I wonder if that old-fashioned skill set of getting out there, meeting and greeting, shaking hands in person, hustling in person to get that job, making the networking connections to find somebody who can offer you a job, I wonder if some of that stuff has started to atrophy a little bit as the kids take advantage of all the opportunities that really are there online, but are missing some of the in-person skills of being able to get physically in front of somebody and ask them for a job.
And sure, that's something that I think we all battle, with the internet. But I can tell you that our institutions, my institution alike, with our career services, we're inviting companies in. We're making students in our business college, preparing students to go have that in-person interaction with those who are seeking for those who are giving employment. And so I think it's necessary to have a happy balance with that. But these institutions, the institutions that I represent, our career services, they're phenomenal in terms of matching students with those opportunities and giving the companies an opportunity to come in. But like I said, also asking companies to give our students an opportunity to come touch and feel. We have a partnership with NASA. Where it's a cooperative agreement. And this is probably a $1.1 million proposition, but it's to build engineers as well as physicists, right? And so that type of collaboration, I think, with companies definitely help push the needle in terms of filling these jobs.
Juan, similar question to you. I mean, so much of the very first part of this process is the students being able to understand what their opportunities are and what sort of the menu of things that they can choose from is, and how to position themselves best for those opportunities. How do you manage that very first stage of the process by introducing the students to what is actually out there? Because so much of this, I remember myself as a 17, 18-year-old person, so much of the professional world is just a giant question mark at that age.
Yeah. So, look, one thing we know about human beings is belonging matters.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Belonging matters, and it matters so much. And so the question to any student, the question to anyone is what do we belong to, right? And we don't need to, we can belong to science. We can belong to business. We need to help our students figure out where they belong. And then how do we introduce them to your point about there's got to be some presence here, right? You got to touch and feel it, right? So how do we introduce them to some spaces where they might be able to decipher a little better whether they belong there or not, right? Make that match. I will say that one of the things that we built in Chicago is called the Chicagoland Apprenticeship Network. And it's all about belonging, right? You want to be a part of this network as a student. You want to be part of this network as a business. You're an employee at a company. You want to be part of this network because we're all getting together. And in that process, the student's starting to figure out, I'd like to do that apprenticeship with Aon or with Accenture or with Zurich or with, McDonald's, right? And so, we've got to help and enable, that process for folks that are still trying to figure out. But I want to stress the belonging element here, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Can I pile on to both of these comments, which is I think the in-person hustle is still there. And to the point of belonging, we've had a ton of success working with great longstanding institutions like SWE, SHIP, and NSBE. And for those that don't love acronyms as much as our industry do, that's the Society of Women Engineers, that's the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers, and the National Society of Black Engineers. And they host massive conferences where really high-performing engineering students and graduates fly in from all over the country, and they have basically job fairs. And we go, and we have to get ourselves ready for this, but we do interviews and make job offers on the spot. And it is awesome.
That's dramatic.
And it is awesome.
Yeah.
And it is and to your point, there are so many different dimensions of belonging that are layers to that, right? And we're there to help them try to convince them that they want to belong with Bechtel, right? And we've been at this sometimes as a founding partner with them for 50 plus years, and it's incredibly effective.
Yeah.
And if I can add on to that, and you're so right, because if a company can come in and invest in the institution and have a presence there, I think it makes that all the better for a student. We have a partnership with KMPG that basically they invested about $750,000, right? And so they're a part of that network to come in and participate with the company. They're looking for accountants, and they need different type of professions, and they're right there helping prepare those students. And really for those students to have a job after they finish the program, it's a win-win for the companies and all. So it's important.
Chris, what about for you in terms of that first screen of students who are trying to figure out, what in this wide world of options is right for me? How do you connect with people at that early stage of making a decision about what their lives are going to be like?
Yeah, so the most important thing for us is not only a sense of belonging, I think that is very important, but to get a sense of mission in the company. Our company, it's very easy to get a sense of mission. We build aircraft carriers, submarines, surface combatants, and if we can get them to really buy into the mission, then we have a chance to keep them. And when they choose it as a career through an apprenticeship, through the community colleges, through the local regional development centers, they've actually chosen it as a career. They know they're going to get a job where they believe in the mission, then they'll stay.
Yeah. So I'm going to put you guys all on the spot here real quick. I told you at the outset we're going to look for one new idea, so here's your chance to offer one. I'd love to just get from each person, one thing that's new, within the past year, say, that's really working in the real world that you're seeing that maybe the folks in the audience are not seeing from their perspective. And I don't want to put you on the spot, Juan, but you're on the spot.
Yeah, well, here you go. Aon, great case, decides to do an apprenticeship program in Chicago, had never hired our students. We're on our 6th cohort, 140 apprentices, and this is the kicker, okay? 85% of them have been hired by Eamon on a full-time basis after the apprenticeship.
85%?
85%. Yeah. So if I can tell you with high levels of retention, you get a new talent pool, lots of skills and capabilities, that you can run cohorts over multiple years and you're going to get this kind of ROI, right? I would say this opportunity is available at any company.
What changed? What changed that made that work?
What changes is they decided to look at their job descriptions and determine which of those jobs were better off with people that didn't have a bachelor's degree. Okay. So they opened up.
So they opened their way of thinking about who they're taking in.
And the other thing they're doing is, our students are getting their associate's degree while they're working full time in an aligned job, right? So all the things that our students worry about, whether they're going to have a job, a good job, food on the table, right? The alignment between work and school, all that gets solved. So they're helping this talent to progress and grow and develop. So that changed. Without that, we wouldn't be where we're at today. But that's a company decision to get new value and tap into new opportunity.
Brendan, same question for you. One new thing that's working in the real world for you guys.
Well, I'm actually going to maybe quickly lightning round do more than one thing, which is just to say that I don't think there's a single BRT CEO member who wouldn't be prepared to offer full-throated support for the bipartisan Pell legislation that's been discussed all morning, because it increases access and opportunity to the kinds of programs that Quinton and Juan represent, as well as many, many others that employers are partnering with and collaborating with around the country. But we can't just focus as employers on the last mile of someone's career journey. So what we have done and what our industry has done is get way upstream. We're actually developing project-based engineering curricula for self-taught to 6 to 17-year-old girls online. We're going into classrooms to help teach. We, several years ago, sponsored an IMAX movie called Dream Big, which was fundamentally about making engineering cool again for high school kids as they're making these decisions about elective classes. And I think that's what we got to do. We got to keep working our way upstream.
Yeah.
So pre-apprenticeship programs get in the high schools. We, our current education system does not support it as it used to. So we are reaching into the high schools, doing the training, giving them the equipment to develop the next group of students that will become employees.
Do you get resistance when you do that? I mean,
No.
you say that the system is not set up to do it the way it used to be, but when you go and approach the schools, what kind of response do you get?
Very, very positive. Very positive. Now, they don't have a lot of budget. We understand that. So we're having to contribute the machines. We're having to contribute the training with mid-level supervision. But then they're very supportive of it.
And what do you need from them if they can't bring the budgetary piece from
just to support
the
it?
Table? Yeah.
Give me the classroom, access to students, and support it.
Yeah. Dr. Ross.
Well, listen,
one thing that's working now.
The relationship between KPMG with our institution, they're in the institution working with our students. But in terms of, we received a $24 million grant to deal with Gear Up. And this is where the federal government, the public sector has to come together, because we're in the classroom, 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, following the students, talking to them about careers, also talking to them about 4-year institutions, 2-year institutions, and where they need to go in order to get the proper skills. So I think the more that we can get in front of our young people, even in elementary, secondary, the middle school, I think that helps to fill the gap as they come to our institutions and get ready to come into the workforce. So
it's interesting to me that just a common theme of all what everyone's saying here in terms of the things that are working now is an individual company name. I mean, you're saying Aon, you're saying KPMG, you guys are reaching directly into the schools. It seems like a lot of this is the initiative of the companies to reach out, and maybe that's because of the low unemployment rate world that we're in right now. But I wonder if that's right now, if that's what's working right now, the next question is to spin it forward and look at hypothetically, if you could make one thing happen next in the future, what would be your next big thing that would be the next KPMG or the next Aon success or the next initiative just reaching directly into the high schools that you think will really position your institutions for the future in this really low unemployment world that we're in, which I think is great for workers, maybe not as great for the CEOs on the stage as it is for the workers. But if you guys had to spin it forward, Dr. Ross, I'll start with you on this end. Change one thing in the future or one success you're looking to have over the next year.
Listen, I would want, we have 237 members of this business roundtable to make investments in our institutions because that is a direct opportunity for our students to get in touch with what's needed. I think that would benefit them greatly. And I think that the models that we have, and I think we've seen some examples, if there's a mutually beneficial partnership and it's intentional, and you come in and have these relationships, you will find that it will be great return on investment to really get into these institutions and provide an opportunity for these students.
Chris, is there something new that you guys are going to try to do next?
So, Quinton, we will continue to invest.
All right. Well,
Alabama State, Hornets, right? So we'll continue to invest. And, you know, the first thing that leapt to mind, which is probably too broad for this audience, is pre-kindergarten education.
That
right?
Early.
That early. We are in when you have a shipyard, you are the community. You are in the communities in which, you know, you support the businesses, you support the educational institutions, and we have 3- and 4-year-olds in hard hats, right? Because they're mom and dads, that's what they do, and they're proud of it.
And they love it, sure.
We need to continue to support pre-K, and we will continue to do that because this is a long-term problem that we need to find a solution for.
Brendan, something new you're looking to do?
Policy perspective, I'll just repeat what I said before. I think we should all do everything we can to help this bipartisan Pell legislation pass. That's a slam dunk. That needs to happen. The second thing, at the risk of introducing a new topic into the discussion, you know, there's a bunch of ways you can grow the workforce. It's by getting people that aren't currently engaged in the workforce that are here to get engaged. The other part is to do something around immigration reform. And to get back to a place where it's possible, once we've exhausted all local hiring available, that there's a skilled visa program to bring in people that want to join this great nation and earn a living the right way here.
I know we are on the edge of introducing a new topic, and it's such an important topic. I wonder if there's any chance in an election year that's going to happen.
Look, I'm politically realistic about
on all
it,
sides of that
but I would tell you,
high.
I think you'd be really hard-pressed to find a business leader that doesn't think it's part of the permanent long-term solution. I don't think that should, you know, we need to do all the things that we've talked about, but it is a way to grow the available workforce.
I would add, we have some great shipbuilders down in Mississippi that are green card holders. Yeah. We take pains to ensure that we have work instructions in 2 languages, and we have communities that support them. But I agree.
By the way,
Brendan.
I won't speak for them, but I do talk to them about it. Pretty broadly supported by America's building trades community, because they also want to grow their membership. That's, you know, they've kind of realized that if you want to grow the whole size of the market, that's going to be part of the solution.
You got to get that through a building a couple blocks from here, though, and I wonder.
I don't do the political forecasting. I just say what the business community needs.
Juan, I don't want to leave you out of this conversation of what comes next. I mean, is there something you're looking forward to next that you think is going to be a game changer for you over the next year?
Yes to bipartisan Pell. It would be a game changer. Yes to, maybe not in the short run, but, you know, the bipartisan immigration reform. But you know what we need? We need to go from what we have today, company solutions, to industry solutions. And that includes the education industry, okay? So we here at City Colleges, we're working as closely with our K-12 system as ever before. There's no space between us. So we can speak as one to the companies that we're working with, you know, to Dr. Ross's point. And now we're working with our 4-year universities to make sure that we can do the same. We want industry, you know, beyond the companies we work with, isolated companies, to come as industries to speak to us so that we can actually solve the workforce shortages. This is not going away. If we don't look at new ways of talking to each other, we're going to find ourselves, you know, suffering, if you will, 10 years from now, just like we're suffering from a shortage of people.
Sure. I'm told we're just about out of time, so I want to thank everybody for being here. This is a terrific audience. You guys have been really enthusiastic. Thank the panel here for their brilliant ideas. They did come up with something new, as promised. And thank you to the Business Roundtable. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.